Um, you remember we were talking about the other day? So Conan O'Brien stopped guests from calling 911 on Nick Reiner during explosive fight with Dad Rob at holiday party report. Okay. So Conan O'Brien reportedly stopped guests from calling 911 on Nick Reiner at his holiday party on the weekend. Hours before, Nick's parents, Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner, were found dead at their Brentwood home in Los Angeles. The couple attended the star-studded bash with their troubled son. They got in an argument, the father and son at the party. It got so bad and loud, someone wanted to call the police to report it, an insider told the Daily Mail. But Conan stepped in and said, "It's my house, my party. I'm not calling the police." He talked them out of calling the police. Ooh, guys, what we think? What we think, guys? That's kind of crazy to me. Because it's like, think about it. What if the cops came? What if the cops came? Then it's like, you know, maybe bro goes to the think tank, wherever he needs to go, cool off a little. And then, bada bing, everything's cool. Second source echoed those statements, noting that some guests worried about that Nick needed to be placed on a psychiatric hold due to his behavior. When the S was hitting the fan, someone said we needed to call the police. The conversation was getting this kid put into a mental hold. So the conversation was about bro going to the mental hospital. It makes sense. Who wants the cops showing up, creating a scene? But the argument between Rob and Nick was pretty intense. So that's what I'm saying. It's like y'all knew, like, bro was on some mess. Like, just call the cops. Because, like, the cops came anyway. You know what I'm saying? The cops came anyway, so that's what I'm confused about. It's like, if the cops came anyway, like, just call the cops. Because now it's, like, full-blown, like, murder. So, lesson, did we learn a lesson here? Maybe call the cops. Maybe call the cops a little sooner. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying it's just like, say you called the cops, right? They came and they're like, "Oh, it is kind of a hot situation. Let's maybe take bro in for a little, or like split everyone up. Maybe take bro in. What bro goes in, and then bro goes in, and then when he comes out, it's just like." Probably sobers up a little. Maybe he was on some crazy stuff. Like, who knows? Because they were saying he was on some crazy stuff. So it's like, bro might have been like methed out, basically. Like, if he's methed out, then it's like he needs to sit for a little, But, this is a crazy situation. I think it's very sad, honestly. I think, if he was like on some psychotic break, it's very sad. And we gotta keep the Reiner family in our prayers, because it's just like, it's like near the holidays, so it's like they're gonna have a tough time dealing with this. So, and Conan, I kind of understand why not call the cops, because it's like, y'all probably were doing some crazy shit. Y'all probably were doing some crazy shit, and you didn't want the cops there. Makes sense. But, at this point, it's just like, kind of sucks. Like, what if you called the cops, basically? What if you called the cops? But, all right, that's that.